Welcome to part one of Reed and Reed's Slater Hall Sports Hour for the week. I'm Reed.
I'm Robert, and October playoff baseball is upon us, so we took it upon your request to come up with a playoff preview for the MLB season.
And let's just jump right in. We're going to start with the NL Wild Card game.
Yep, we've got the Colorado Rockies traveling to Wrigley Field to play the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs are in this situation because they lost the 163rd game of the season to the Milwaukee Brewers, which secured the division for the Brewers this season. So now their division comes down to one game tonight against the Colorado Rockies. Rockies will be putting Kyle Freeland on the mound to go against John Lester for the Cubs.
Kyle Freeland's had a very underrated year so far for the Rockies, especially with being in Coors Field in Colorado. He gets overlooked, but he still has sub-3 ERA this year in that climate. So people are overlooking Kyle Freeland, but I think it's going to be a very good game tonight.
Yeah, I believe Freeland had the lowest ERA for a Rockies starter, even lower than Ubaldo Jimenez when he was actually a good starter for the Rockies. But he's got a tough task going up against a guy like John Lester. Good postseason success in the past. He has 3 World Series rings. We'll see if that experience is the difference maker tonight, going up against a tough Rockies lineup. Got a great shortstop over there in Trevor Story. Had an exceptional season. And then the always reliable Nolan Arenado, Gold Glove, Silver Slugger type guy at third base. And then you got guys like Charlie Blackmon, Ian Desmond, Carlos Gonzalez when his bat's on. So we'll see if the bats can adjust to playing in Wrigley Field, which way the wind's blowing tonight. We'll see if the big Cubs bats like Rizzo, Bryant show up tonight. And if they do, it could be a good night for the Cubs, but it'll be a battle of the big bats tonight in Wrigley.
Especially considering how poor the Rockies' expensive bullpens performed this year. The Cubs have had a few standouts, Carl Edwards Jr., Steve Cishek. They've had a few guys that have been able to prove worthy out of the bullpen, but the Rockies have just been bad out of the bullpen. So I think that's going to be the difference in the game tonight.
Yeah, that's a big thing for the Cubs, too. They have had standouts out of the bullpen. A lot of the standouts have been hurt this season. Brandon Morrow is going to miss the rest of the season. Pedro Strop could see a return in the divisional series should the Cubs advance that far, but they're relying on guys like Jesse Chavez, Justin Wilson, guys who are having a bigger role than expected at the beginning of the season. Chavez was a trade deadline acquisition, so we'll see if these smaller name guys out of the bullpen can still be reliable for the Cubs.
So my pick officially, contrary to what I just said, I actually am taking the Rockies in this game. I just think Kyle Freeland, this is going to be his coming out party to the world. He had a great year, but people kind of discredited him. And I think Kyle Freeland's going to go 7 innings and put the Rockies on his back tonight. But I still think it's going to be a great close game.
On the other hand, I'm going to pick the Cubs to win this game. In the wild card game, I think Lester proves again that he's a reliable starter in the postseason, has a strong outing. The offense gets something done besides just a solo home run from Rizzo, which this season has happened a lot. Yeah, offense gets something going, and Cubs win the wild card game, go on to play the Brewers again.
So now we'll move into the divisional matchup. We'll start with the one that's already set, the Atlanta Braves at the Los Angeles Dodgers, who just barely snuck into the playoffs after having a very high payroll and almost missing it.
Yeah, the Dodgers season also came down to a game 163 to clinch the division. Good for them. They got some additional days rest to prepare for their matchup against the Braves. The report is they'll be sending Kershaw and Hyun-Jin Ryu out there for games 1 and 2. The exact order hasn't been set yet, but yeah, this is a Dodgers team coming off a World Series berth last season, lost in a Game 7. They had high expectations before the season to, of course, repeat. Seager went down. They brought in guys like Machado and Dozier, try to bolster that lineup, and it worked second half of the season. We'll see if that continues into the playoffs.
I think I'm a big pitching guy. I think pitching is going to be another big difference. The Dodgers obviously have a lot of talent, and I think outside of Fulte for the Braves, I think the Braves just don't have the pitching to compete with the Dodgers. And I think that, again, pitching is going to be the difference in this series between being able to I have the Dodgers winning in 4 games. I'm giving the Braves a game, but I do think that the Dodgers are going to be able to take this pretty handily.
Yeah, I also have the Dodgers advancing and the Braves only winning 1 game. I think with Fulte out there on the mound in Game 1, that's their best opportunity to get a game. He's by far their best starter. And then there's a lot of young talent on that Braves team. Ozzie Albies, Ronald Acuna Jr. Let's see how they play in their first experience in the playoffs. Dodgers have a lot of veteran postseason experience. I think that's just going to give them the upper hand in this series. So I have the Dodgers advancing 3-1.
And I also want to point out that the Braves are a year ahead in their development. A lot of people thought that next year would be the year where they start to compete and the Nationals were going to be would reign as NL East champs again, but it looks like they're a year ahead. So great for them for making the playoffs, but I don't expect them to do any serious damage this year.
So on to our next divisional matchups. They'll be different for each of us because we had different picks in the NL wildcard game. I'll go first. I have the Chicago Cubs in a rematch against the Milwaukee Brewers this season, or again, while playing them in a game 163. It'll be a tough. This is a rivalry. Whatever Cole Hamels has to say, this has developed into a good rivalry. The fans are passionate and fill up each other's stadiums. We'll see. The Christian Yelich and Lorenzo Cain have been on a tear, especially the second half of this season. The bullpen is insane, led by Josh Hader. Everything's going right now for the Brewers. Let's see if that continues against, in my case, the Cubs.
I have the Rockies playing the Brewers, and I think the big difference between the Brewers and the Rockies in this situation is just the potency of their offense. Not everyone thinks of the Rockies as a great offense, and obviously Trevor Story, Arenado, Blackmon, LeMahieu, so on and so forth. The Brewers hitters have been on a tear. Aguilar went 30 and 100 home runs and RBIs. Yelich is probably the NL's MVP. Lorenzo Cain was such an acquisition, and with adding scope, Moustakas hasn't been great since he got traded, but he's still there. Travis Shaw off the bench. Braun's picked it up as of late, and I just think that the Brewers have a lot on offense, and not only do they have a lot on offense, but they've been hot. Probably one of the hottest teams in baseball throughout September, and winning a championship is as much about being hot as it is about being good. So I think that's what's going to carry them in this series.
Yeah, Travis Shaw in game 163 against the Cubs did not start. He came off the bench. That's a guy with 30 home runs this season, 30 plus. That shows you the depth the Brewers have at all positions, infield, outfield, catcher. And for that reason, it pains me to say it, I am picking the Brewers to defeat the Cubs in the NLDS. I have them taking the series 3-2 and advance to the NLCS.
I forgot to mention, I have them taking it in 6 games. I'm giving the Rockies 2 games, but I think the Brewers are still going to handle it pretty well.
Now, to our NLCS, I've got the Dodgers against the Brewers. It'll be a good matchup of two teams that have come on of late, both stealing divisions in game 163. I actually have the Brewers advancing to the World Series in a 4-2 division win, or championship series win against the Dodgers.
I also have the Dodgers win. I think this is going to go the full 9 yards. I think it's going to go. It'll come down to a game 7 in the NLCS. And I didn't mention him. I think Jhoulys Chastain is a great postseason. He looked great in game 163, aside from one hiccup. And I think he's going to be the anchor for this staff. But I do think the Dodgers are going to take it in 7, just because they have too much. Their payroll's too high. They just have too much talent. But Brewers are not to be forgotten next year. And now moving over to the AL, the wild card game is the surprising Oakland Athletics at the big-time New York Yankees.
Yeah, the Athletics had a heck of the last 2/3 or so of the season, overcame the Mariners, who had a hot start to the season. Their playoff-less streak continues for the Mariners. The A's, on the other hand, it looks like in the wild card game, they'll have the opener, Liam Hendricks, out there. He's a big part of their bullpen, going up against the Yankees ace and Luis Severino.
I think this is all because they lost Sean Manaea for the rest of the season with a shoulder injury, and I think personally the opener is a good idea, especially in the playoffs when you have to have your best arms out there all the time, and you have big at bats in the first inning that could be detrimental to your season over the course of the regular season, maybe here and there, but the opener, I think in the playoffs, if you don't have that guy, then I think that's a great idea, and I think the Athletics are doing the right thing.
And like the wild card game last year for the Yankees, Severino is going to be on a tight leash. If anything major happens for the A's offense, Boone will be right to the bullpen. Got big names in there, Betances, Chapman, Britton, whatever order he wants to use them. They can be effective, and they're probably the best bet to shut down the Oakland A's offense if Severino struggles. I'm going to pick the New York Yankees with that high-powered home run record-setting offense at home, tied with Severino, and I think together they'll beat the A's tonight.
I mean, if you think about it, the Yankees should have a perfect bullpen for the opener. I mean, they have so many damn good bullpen guys that the opener would be perfect for them, but I am actually taking the A's in this game. I just think that it's just too perfect for the A's to not beat the Yankees here. So I'm taking the A's. I think Matt Chapman has a big game. And just like Kyle Freeland, I think this is Matt Chapman's coming out party to the nation that he didn't really get this year due to limited coverage.
Yeah, I mean, I'm picking the Yankees. Who wouldn't want to see the A's win this game and advance further in the playoffs? They're a great story. Moneyball has been going on for decades now, and we'll see if they can finally beat the Yankees.
There's 29 fan bases that are rooting for the Athletics today. Don't worry.
Moving on to the divisional series, the matchup already set in stone is the Cleveland Indians against the Houston Astros, defending World Series champions.
I am high on the Astros because I think their rotation is from the beginning of the year. Obviously, it wasn't as fantastic at the end of the year, but still, I mean, you got Verlander, who it could potentially be a Cy Young, who is definitely a Cy Young candidate, could potentially be the winner. They still have Charlie Morton, who pitched better. They have Dallas Keuchel. They have Garrett Cole. They have a full rotation of guys that are good, but they also added Osuna at the deadline, and that really solidifies their bullpen with Chris Davinsky kind of tailing off. We all know who they have on offense. They have Altuve, Correa, Bregman had an MVP-worthy season, and I think the Astros are going to be too much for the Indians and their lack of bullpen, so I have the Astros taking this one in 4.
Yeah, for the same reasons as my co-host mentioned, I'm picking the Astros in this series. The starters are fantastic. The offense is fantastic. It was briefly touched upon, but I think Alex Bregman is definitely a top 5 MVP finisher this year. He had a heck of a season. And then you throw in guys like Jose Altuve, George Springer, Carlos Correa. Just too much for the Indians, who Lindor and Jose Ramirez are going to do all they can. Josh Donaldson was a nice get at the deadline. But still, Astros win. I think they'll win the series 3-1. Maybe Kluber gets a win for the Indians, but overall, Astros advance to the CS.
So now move on to the other divisional series, which we also have different matchups again. I have the A's at the Red Sox, and he has the Yankees at the Red Sox.
Yeah, another classic series for the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry. Another meeting in the postseason against the two best teams in not just the American League, but probably all of baseball this season. Both have higher powered offenses. Both have some good pitchers. The Yankees probably they definitely do have a much better bullpen and probably a deeper rotation. And for those reasons, I'm going to pick the Yankees to advance to the to the championship series, beating the Red Sox 3-2 in the divisional series.
Just like the wild card game, I wanted to pick the A's, but I'm just taking the Red Sox. The Red Sox offense is just too deep. I mean, they have everything you need. They have JD Martinez, Mookie, Benintendi. They've got it all, and I just think it's going to be too much for the low payroll, low cost A's here.
Yeah, and it's tough picking against the Red Sox with all of those weapons, especially in offense with Betts, Benintendi, Ramirez, and that's just the outfield and the DH. But aside from Craig Kimbrell and the Red Sox bullpen, it's been pretty mediocre this season. Behind Sale, it's questionable at the starters. I just have more faith in some of the Yankees pitchers especially, and that's why I'm advancing them to the ALCS. And moving on to that ALCS, I have, just a reminder, the Yankees against the Astros in this series.
And I have the Astros at the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, and this is a rematch of last year's ALCS series, which the Astros wanted to advance to the World Series. I'm going the opposite this year. I'm taking the Yankees to advance to the World Series in a 4-3, 7-game series. 2 good rotations, 2 good offenses. Yankees have the advantage of bullpen, but they'd have that against any team they face. Yankees are going to win some big games, some close games. It's going to be a heck of a series to watch, but guys like Judge, Stanton, they're just going to take over the series, and I see a World Series appearance in the Yankees' future this postseason.
As I said before, I'm all about pitching, and I just don't think the Yankees have the pitching to take down the Astros. I mean, Severino looked like a complete ace last year and looked amazing to start the year, but he's really fallen off to the point where they thought J.A. Happ was going to start the wild card game for him, but now it's announced that Severino is. I mean, J.A. Happ was a good addition for him, but Tanaka hasn't been great this year. Severino hasn't been great. J.A. Happ's been pretty good for the Yankees since they acquired him. CC Sabathia, you never know what you're going to get now that he throws 88. And I just think that the pitching, as great as the offense is for the Yankees with Judge and Stanton, Hicks, Glaber, Andahar, they have all the offense. But when it comes to a 7-game series, I'm going to take pitching 9 times out of 10. So I'm taking the Astros. Actually, I'm going to take them in 7. I think it's going to be a good game because I think the Yankees bullpen will be able to make up for their lack of starting pitching depth. But I'm taking the Astros in 7.
Moving on to the Fall Classic, our World Series, I have the Yankees against the Milwaukee Brewers.
And I have the Dodgers at the Houston Astros. A rematch of last season, unfortunately.
And for my pick, I'm picking the Yankees over the Brewers. I think the Yankees will be world champions, winning the series 4-2. I see World Series MVP going to Aaron Judge, going to have a field day against some of the starting pitching for the Brewers. And overall, that offense for the Yankees is just going to be, I don't want to say unstoppable, but try stopping that offense with all the names that have been previously mentioned. The starters, if they can go 5 innings, that's all they need with that bullpen. And I think another trophy is going to be added to that New York Yankees collection.
It's crazy to think that last year the Brewers went into the season as rebuilding mode. They had the lowest payroll in all of baseball at just over $63 million, and now here they are, as some people predict, coming out of the NL into the World Series. And I have no problem with that. I just think that the Dodgers are just going to edge them out in the NLCS, and I have the Astros beating the Dodgers just like last year. I have them winning it in 6 games. I'm going to give the Dodgers 2 games. I think Kershaw will win at least. Kershaw's going to get his. I think he'll take at least 1, but I think it's going to go very similarly to last year, except Alex Bregman is taking the lead for the Astros in the World Series. He's going to be their motor that keeps them going, and I think that he's going to be a stud. But for my World Series MVP, I'm going with the dark horse. I'm going with Roberto Osuna. He's going to have a lot of clutch appearances out of the bullpen against a very good Dodgers offense, and I think regardless of his off-the-field issues, I think Roberto Osuna is going to come up huge in the series for the Houston Astros this year.
So there you have it, our playoff preview for the MLB this season. We've given you, well, at least in my case, I've given you the answer key for how the playoffs are going to unfold. Check back at the end of the playoffs, see how we did. Message us with any questions or comments you have.
Also check back after tonight to see if it's still the answer key for him.
Yeah.
Because tonight, one of us will get the game right. It's just a matter of who.
Someone's going to get spoiled in just a couple hours. We'll see who it is.
We'll see who has, and then after that, we'll see if they're still perfect because we had different answers on the wild card game too. So, and that's going to wrap up our MLB preview. Make sure you check back tomorrow for our NFL Week 4 recap. I'm Reed.
I'm Robert. Enjoy the show. Come back next time.